Well, once you collide with your box of awesome, you'll never want to go back. But I can't say the same thing. Apparently, now for our favorite program on the air, formerly Collision, the September 2nd episode of this program was the opening was the statement that Tony Khan made where he said he feared for his life, as well as Punk's rampage, endangering production staff and innocent people backstage, and couldn't be tolerated. That's on the YouTube clip and also the separate podcast feed we mentioned earlier about Punk's firing. But Tony did this in 90 seconds on the opening of the program, reading it off a teleprompter in front of a green screen. And it's also, as we mentioned in that clip, he came out on stage and told the people in the building, it took him about 6 minutes to sputter it all out, and they booed him unmercifully through the whole exchange. So can we just go ahead and say, Brian, they're going to scrap Elton John? Saturday night is not all right for fighting, because the last time a guy got in a fight on Saturday night, he got fired in AEW. So they're getting rid of Elton John, and they're going to go with another British pop group to replace Elton John. Did you hear about this?
I did not hear about this, no.
Paper Lace, The Night Chicago Died. In the heat of a summer night, in the land of one Bill filled, the town of Chicago died, because Tony was weak-willed when a man named Tony Khan took a shit right on his lawn, and he fired his biggest star. In the middle of the war, the night Chicago died. The night Chicago died.
And this was the day Hearing died.
Well, you should have tucked your ears in if you didn't want to use them.
I wanted to use them.
So then Tony made his statement, and again, Saturday night is not all right for fighting. You can get fired for doing stuff like that. And then Tony Schiavone, the other beleaguered Tony, they opened up on him in the ring, and they completely muted the crowd, because as soon as they started, I thought I heard "We Want Punk" or something like a chant started, and then the crowd came down. And you heard Tony's mic in the ring, and you heard him introduce Ricky Starks and Big Bill, and here they came. And once Starks got out there, they settled down. I noticed that this crowd, and especially even the pay-per-view crowd, which we'll get to, unfortunately, here before too long, they were respectful to the people in the ring that they knew they liked, they knew didn't have any part to play in the fucking deal. But
this wasn't Baltimore 91.
No.
This wasn't We Want Flair.
It wasn't, we're going to hijack everybody's match. They were respectful to the people that they liked and that didn't have anything to do with it, and they pinpointed Tony Khan and the Buckaroos as the people responsible for them not seeing what they thought they were going to fucking see when they bought the tickets. So they were a respectful, rowdy crowd. But anyway, Starks came out, and this promo, he was venting, because now this was apparently supposed to be Punk. And his promo, in the context of the storyline, in the context of the wrestling television show, and what's been going on, made absolutely no sense. But if you knew what the fuck was going on, he's pissed. Every time I climb up the hill, I get dragged back down. I'm so tired of having to start over. No matter how many times they try to use me and abuse me, I'm gonna be here. And Big Bill, you're a hell of a dude too. You overcame addiction. I believe in you and myself. I'm a man, and I'm gonna come out and do what I need to do.
What a babyface promo, right?
I mean, yeah, again, it was completely babyface promo, because he was again pissed off that another angle match opportunity has been pulled out from under him. But then he gets back into gimmick, but he's turned pure babyface, but then he calls Steamboat out. And then they do the deal where Steamboat comes out and has a contract because he's heard Starks wants a strap match. So he's got the contract. Starks wants to sign it. Ricky Starks versus the Dragon in a strap match. And Starks signs that bad boy. And then they bring out Bryan Danielson. Thank God, even with a brace on or however early he's coming back, they had this available because they may have dodged, I wrote at the time, this bullet. And the fans are immediately on Starks like, you fucked up, the Dragon, Bryan Danielson. And they ended it. It was kind of an awkward out with just a stare down face off or whatever, but at least they got out of that. And as we will find out, they turned a negative into a positive, as Vinnie Mac would say, because it turned out to be the highlight of the pay-per-view. But, if it had been 2 weeks ago, would Danielson have been able to do this? He wasn't able to come back for the Wembley Stadium, the biggest fucking crowd of all time, where they would have thrown babies in the air for Bryan Danielson. But, they rushed him up for this because I guess they had no choice.
Plus, I think believe it or not, despite how brutal the match was, I think he could work around the gimmick of the strap match with his arm condition a little better than he could a physical match. I mean, they were talking him and Omega for Wembley. There's no way he could have done that if he has an arm issue.
No. And with the strap and it being on the other arm and him not having to do, multiple things off the top and crazy stuff that you can't do with a strap, it was beneficial. But nevertheless,
this was good. I mean, Starks is great. And you can imagine that frustration. He was about to have the run with CM Punk. That would have been the main run, the main feud on Saturdays. That's out the window. Man, when I talked to MJF, I assume that maybe how MJF felt a year ago. Remember, he returned to work the program of Punk, and then it all went out the window right away. My only issue with this is, specifically with the Big Bill line, pointing out that he overcame addiction. That's a wonderful thing for a babyface to point out.
Yes.
You want to cheer Big Bill at that point. You want to cheer Ricky. And then he goes back to being a heel. Danielson, who we last saw, again, he's still a member of the Blackpool Combat Club. He comes out with the other heels, but he's coming out as a babyface because why else would he be defending the honor of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat? And it's a minor thing, but as soon as you saw the contract and it said Ricky Starks versus the Dragon, you kind of knew what was coming next.
And that's
but there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, yes, there is. There's nothing wrong with
right in that moment. In that moment,
but there is something wrong with the fucking heel member of the top heel group, the Blackpool fucking Fellowship, comes out to a Raven babyface response against the heel who's been doing dastardly shit, who just finished talking about how much perseverance he has and how great a guy his fucking henchman is. And so they're just putting names together so people won't set their televisions on fire at this point. But the booking still doesn't make any sense, of course, because of all the, not only the curves they get thrown with Fire and the Big Star, but also just the positions they have put these guys in where they make a guy a heel, even though the people want to cheer him, or vice versa. And it's just...
Starks does an incredible fired up promo, whether as a babyface or as a heel. We've seen it enough times now. He could do it. He's great. And it's a short sample size, but I like him and Big Bill together. And Big Bill's improved and he looks good. Do you think if they wanted to go to WWE and get out of their contract, they should just sneak up behind Tony and boo, scare him?
Make him fear for his life?
Make him fear for something. Now that we've established that's a way to get out of your contract.
Well, I don't know how much heat old Big Bill has from when he was there before. Was that because of the little dipshit he was partnered with?
That's a good point. I don't know.
Speaking of little dipshits, so Moxley was in the back rambling on about pockets, and this was one of his lines. The idiots call him a cosplay wrestler. Well, are any of them the winningest champion in all of pro wrestling? Of course not. Because nobody else is the boss's pet. Tony Khan can have a chimpanzee win if he wants to. And Moxley's doing the promo where he's trying to convince people that our little puppy Pockets is the real thing, but he's going to target his soul.
Yeah, I don't believe Moxley's the real thing. That's the problem. The promo starts, you're trying to listen to him, okay, I see what he's doing. But again, by the end of it, I will crush your soul, I will eat your soul, whatever the fuck he's talking about.
He's going to drink his bones and eat his blood. And
ridiculous.
But anyway, so that we got that coming up on the pay-per-view. And then again on Collision, our program that we've normally been liking, we can see now the change in management. Daniel Garcia, Daddy Mac, and Cool Hand Luke against the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn. The highlight was Caster's rap getting bleeped. Apparently he went too far even for these people. Did you notice that referee Aubrey Ed had her mane arranged in a brand new style?
I did notice she now has her hair down for the first time.
Yes, and well, there's still kind of there's a thing, her mane is braided in the middle with braids and it goes down in the ponytail. Yeah. This match happened and all three of the baby faces hit Daddy Mac Daddy with each one of them with a move 1, 2, 3. And
I think it was during this match, maybe, or slightly after it. I don't remember the exact point, but I tweeted out that it's like Dynamite and Rampage had an ugly baby.
A very ugly baby. An ugly child. Took after its mother and its father. And then Ozzy Oldham wrestled Commander and Nick Wayne with Alex. Alex is now managing Nick Wayne and Commander. What did I tell you? It was either earlier in this show or it was the last show we did. Alex comes out with anybody that's from Mexico or has a Mexican gimmick. Isn't that racist?
Well, Nick Wayne is from the Pacific Northwest.
No, Commander.
Well, he's been managing. He's run out there with Commander jumping around a few times now.
Ozzy Oldham.
Is it racist that Prince Nana doesn't have a lot of white guys in his stable?
No, because he's got white guys. If every black wrestler on the roster had to be managed by Prince Nana as a matter of course, that would be racist.
I'm trying to think of the other managers of their fucking stables. That I can't think of anyone right now. Who else manages at AEW? Jake Roberts only manages big, tall, white guys.
One big, tall, white guy.
Does Jake still work there, actually? I don't even know. We haven't seen him in forever, so who knows?
We haven't seen Lance Archer, so... Nevertheless...
Well, did you see this match?
Not much. No, I will make a couple of comments. The team of Ozzy Oldham looked like a high school kid dressed like a video game character and his unemployed uncle who's on probation.
He looks like the Australian Nick Wayne.
Why are they open?
I don't know. That's a good question.
This was instant gymnastics. You might get this reference. It looks like mat rats with a chaperone.
Ah. Well, that is from where Nick Wayne's from, the Pacific Northwest.
So they had the aggressive choreographed parkour. Commander's the size of a 10-year-old. There was no heat, no story, one move after another back and forth. Nick and the young Ozzy did the damnedest swing dance routine you've ever seen. And then did you like the Three Stooges choreography they did where Nick Wayne kept ducking both of them and they were hitting each other? And then they just caught him with a double team, 1, 2, 3. So they beat the teen sensation instead of the meaningless microscopic Mexican. That was that. And then Tony Schiavone gets in the ring with Nick Wayne, who is upset that Darby Allin forgave A.R. Fox, who did all the things he did to him. Darby came out and put Nick over, but said, hey, I forgave A.R. Fox because I got in a fight with your father before he died, and I didn't speak to him. And A.R. Fox was one of my trainers too, so I had to let it go. Boy, they're really reaching, aren't they? And so Darby wants Nick to be in his corner at the pay-per-view. But then Christian Cage's music plays, and out comes him and Dino, and immediately it got better because Christian was speaking. And he knocked the Blackhawks and said something about sliding into Nick's mom's DMs. and threatened Darby and told Nick to bring a towel to throw in. So Christian finished this bit strong, but it was slow getting there with the other two.
I don't know. I'm kind of over Christian's act, to be honest. Just I'm going to come out there and say a really outrageous thing. How many times is it going to happen? I don't know.
But he says it well.
Yeah, he says it well. He's performing. We've seen him for enough years that we know this is his new character.
See, now you're the one that's getting fucking cranky and fed up with people quick.
I am. This is the week I'm cranky and fed up with all of these people.
Did you like the interview where Claudio and Wheeler Useless and Claudio actually got an interview, and all he did was give Wheeler the forearms over and over so that he could prove that every time he gets knocked down, he gets back up. And at the end of it, his own fucking partner is goddamn down on the ground in pain.
No, I did not like this promo. I don't think Claudio's a particularly good promo. Blackpool Combat Club sucks. Wheeler Yuta doesn't fit. I'm sorry, he's smaller than both of them, and like with the smaller size, there's no muscle mass or anything. There's nothing that makes you think he could stretch you or he's a shooter. I mean, we can forget about the whole connection to Blackpool. That's out the fucking window. But Wheeler Yuta, when you see Moxley and Claudio and even Danielson standing there, they work together. I'm not saying I'm a fan of it, but standing next to each other, it works. Wheeler's like, we took someone from the lesser division and we brought him up here. He's our little buddy. But we're supposed to believe that he can kick some ass in a match.
We took somebody from the crowd. Saraya and Ruby were in the back. Saraya didn't do a bad promo. And Ruby was okay. And they said Tony was in the parking lot throwing shoes at birds. So then we got to the point that we were curious about. Tony Schiavone was in the ring introducing Dennis Rodman. And I wrote, God, this show is rotten. This is Collision. This is what we've got so far.
This segment.
Rodman came out. Look, I know he's got to be worth $50 million or some ridiculous amount. But he looked like a fucking homeless addict that climbed over a wall to escape something.
That's kind of his look.
And he didn't speak before Jeff Jarrett's music played. And here came Jeff and Karen and Sanjay and Lethal and Zippy. And they cut a promo about Rodman being a former NWO member and demanded that he join their group again. And this was clearly set up just to antagonize him so he'd do something of some kind. But then apparently, the only person that felt confident in whatever he was going to do was Sanjay, and with good reason. Sanjay tells all the heels to get out of the ring, and he demands an answer. So he's 2 feet shorter than fucking Rodman. And Rodman, being a world-class athlete, grabbed him and somehow awkwardly shoved him down in a fashion. And I don't know, and then the Acclaim music played, and they came out, even though Rodman was in no particular danger. And Bowens challenged him right now, but Billy said, no, I can't wrestle twice in one night, so how about tomorrow night? And Rodman can be in our corner. And the fans were just staring at this shit. It wasn't like, oh, our former basketball hero or our wrestling hero or anybody of our heroes. It was like, what the fuck is going on here? What was going on there?
Swami's barking. What was going on was an NBA legend who has a history with wrestling during its last boom period was brought in, and they immediately shifted to the Jeff Jarrett comedy show. And as soon as you see that, you know what it is. It's just we've seen enough of these segments. I know you like Jeff, but how many of these bad Jeff Jarrett segments do there have to be?
My affection is waning.
I used to say I thought it would be like TNA. It's worse because it's TNA with Tony. It's just not good. All of these Jeff Jarrett segments, and it was just him and Lethal. And then they had Sanjay. Then they had the Feckless Giant. And now Karen's bored, I guess, so now she marches out there with him to be a part of what is just the low-rent segment of every show.
I wish we could see Jay Lethal wrestle. That would be so much fun. All righty. They did a package to tell us more about Shane Taylor, but not much. And Samoa Joe was in the back and did a great, serious heel promo. He talks well. He carries himself well. He's condescending to people beneath him. That was good for a minute. But then we got Baker, Shida, and Statlander against Saraya, Storm, and So-So. And Saraya sprayed Britt Baker in the face and Ruby pinned her. And I wrote, Punk's gone 1 week and Saturday has turned into Wednesday.
And we just saw on Payback that Trish Stratus Becky Lynch cage match. Again, not necessarily something you like, but you could appreciate the effort and the quality of the competitors in there. Rhea Ripley versus Raquel. And then it's this. And then it's these 6-man matches with just... It's like they only exist to drive away viewers.
Especially the 6 women matches when they have the 6-man
Did I
match.
say 6-man again?
Yes,
Fuck.
you did.
Trios. Maybe trios is the right word now. We can start using it's
well, but
gender neutral.
They just had an 8-man. Does that make it quattros?
A quartet match.
Okay, what about a 10-man tag like the Stadium Stampede? Is that a Cinco match or a sinkhole match?
Maybe a sinkhole match.
Speaking of a sinkhole match, Powerhouse Hobbs was up next against a guy named GPA. And from the looks of him, it didn't stand for grade point average. And 1 tackle, pancake, 1, 2, 3. And then Miro came to the ring. And they had what was an unfortunately awkward punch exchange, but it was stiff. And Hobbs took a nice bump over the top rope and they fought on the floor. And then they just kind of separated and walked off. And I was a bit reticent about the idea of Hobbs and Miro on the pay-per-view because of the big guys, the big bulls together. Sometimes it gets sloppy, but we'll see what happened when we get to that. And we were ready for our main event. Jay White and Dax. So again, how many weeks has it been that if it wasn't for Gin and Juice or FTR or Punk or actually I'll put the Gun Boys in there too, they wouldn't have had a main event. But they've had some of the best main events on wrestling television lately. But how long before that comes to an end, too, now that we're hearing the brand split will be unsplit and joined back together. And what Tony has joined together, let no punk rend asunder.
I wonder if anyone's going to have a problem with that who didn't expect to work a second day. No matter what side you're on, if you expected to only work Wednesdays, and now it's like, well, we fired that guy you had a problem with. We kind of expect you to show up on Saturdays now, too.
I've got no problem for the money these guys are making with people being asked to work 2 days a fucking week, but I wonder if any of the people that thought they were over on Saturday to be serious and get a push and get over away from all the foolishness and the children will be upset that they're going back to a clown show format instead of wrestling.
Look, it's over. Whatever Collision was going to be, and it was for most of each episode, that's, I think, done now. Yeah. It's now just going to be more Dynamite.
Well, anyway, speaking of Dynamite, this match was good. It was snug. It was crisp. They both can work. I like Jay White's work a lot better than his promos. To be honest, I think Juice ought to be the stick man for that team. But they went through a couple of breaks. They kept it interesting. They had the people interested. They had, the false finishes, the back and forth, blah, blah, blah. And finally, with the heels distracting, Jay White hit his finish on Dax on the floor and then rolled him in, but Dax got a jackknife for a 2 count. And then suddenly Jay White hit his finish again and got a 3 count. But then the heels jumped Cash and the Buckaroos came out for the save and were booed out of the arena for saving the baby faces. And that was, unfortunately, our favorite wrestling show, or what used to be our favorite wrestling show of the week, ladies and gentlemen.
And like you said, I believe it was on the special edition, or maybe it was earlier. It must have been on the special edition. After they went off the air, the Bucks took a victory lap in the ring in front of a half-empty house.
Yes, that was someone retweeted that. Who was it? I believe it was Vince McMahon's thoughts. But somebody said this is classic way for them to end Punk's tenure in the company by taking a victory lap in the ring in an empty arena in front of a bunch of people who booed him out of the building. So that was that. That was Collision. We collided with that. What in the world is going on in your world this week, young Brian?
Look, I'm so tired and we have so much more to talk about. We've watched so much shit the last few days. Go through everything on Twitter at Superpodcast, Facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard, the wrestling news. With all this shit happening, how do you keep up with, I can't even talk! How do you keep up with all of it? Without opinion and conjecture. You do it with the wrestling news, thewrestlingnews.com. Look for Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News. Look for all the other shows. And, of course, the 605 Super Podcast. The Mothership! 605 Pod. Hey. 605pod.com, or go through the archive today. Also, actually, I do want to make mention, Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon this week. He goes through his archives, an interview with Terry Funk that he conducted a few years ago.